The Watch That Ends the Night. Written by Hugh MacLennan. Published by McGill Queen's University Press. Read by Julian Casey. Tibi ubicumque sis ad qualiscumque gratia et hic liber. Part 1. Chapter 1. There are some stories into which the reader should be led gently, and I think this may be one of them. One evening at the beginning of a cold February, the first winter of the Korean War, I left my classroom in the university and made my way along the corridor to the stair. It was 5 o'clock, and the best time of my days that winter was about to begin. I love Montreal on a fine winter night, and I was looking forward to the walk home along Sherbrooke Street, with the evening star in the gap at the corner of Guy, then to a drink before my fire, to dinner, and after dinner to a quiet evening with my wife, a little more work, and a good night's sleep. That evening I was happy. Now I suppose I should introduce myself. My name is George Stewart, and I come from what might be called an old Montreal family. But I also come from an impoverished family, and even now I think of myself as a product not only of Montreal, but also of the Depression, scarred by it like so many of my friends, for this intricate, fostering city was a bad place in the Depression. I've done various things for a living, but radio has been the only thing in which I've gained any reputation. For years before the Korean War, I had been a political commentator over the radio, and a writer of freelance articles on political topics for our magazines. In a huge country like the United States, a man with a reputation such as I had here would have been prosperous. But Canada is a country with a small population, and the pay for my kind of work is proportionate. Hundreds of thousands of Canadians knew my name from coast to coast, but most of them were better off than I was. I had never known financial security, but at least I managed to get by and was not in debt. I have never felt safe. Who of my age could, unless he was stupid? Quite a few people thought me successful, but in my own eyes I was no more successful than the old Greek who pushed boulders up the hill, knowing they would tumble down the moment they reached the top. Some people thought me calm, but inside I knew I was not. I have often heard myself described as a mature commentator, but I've never seemed mature to myself. The young seem more so because they know nothing of the 1930s. The young have the necessary self-confidence and ignorance to feel mature, and that is why I like them so much better than I like my own generation. Was there ever a crowd like ours? Was there ever a time when so many people tried so pathetically to feel responsible for all mankind? Was there ever a generation which yearned to belong so unsuccessfully to something larger than themselves? That winter I truly thought I had begun to relax for the first time since I was a boy. I thought I had come to terms with myself and with the peculiar fate which controlled me owing to my wife. I even thought I might have become self-confident, and I had loved this part-time job in the university, because it had brought me into touch with the young. These post-war students seemed to me a new breed on earth. They were so much freer in their souls than we had ever been, and so much easier in their emotions. Also, unless the world goes crazy again, they were luckier, for not one of them could remember the Depression, or what it had been like when Hitler was the most powerful man in the world. Not one of them was corroded by the knowledge that nobody wanted them. They all expected to get jobs and marry young and to raise families young. And now, as I walked down the corridor, I felt joy flood me as I heard the happy noise they made at the end of their day. A student asked me a question about my lecture. I gave him an answer and stopped at a window and looked out. Powder snow lay deep and white on the slope of Mount Royal, and was flecked with the foot and tail marks of the squirrels who lived on the mountain. On this clear winter evening after sunset, there was a green blink in the sky, and as I looked up through the boles of the bare trees, I saw a flash of bright colour, and recognized a pheasant which also lived on the mountain, and survived the winters and scraps thrown to him out of apartment windows by old ladies who loved him. This pale twilight bathing the city erased time. It called me back to the Montreal which had once been one of the true great winter cities of the world, with ice toboggan slides on the mountain, and snowshoers and scarlet sashes and toques and grey homespuns, bright against the snow, and shacks with rank coffee and acrid air, where you warmed your half-frozen feet in front of Quebec heaters, and felt young and clean and
Sample complete. Ready to continue?